Okay, so I just got home from work. A very special box came today. Being I've got fire boots in front of me, you can probably figure out what I'm fixing to pull out of the box. So to get started, this is my original pair of fire boots. This is a set of White's smoke jumpers that I bought at a boot barn in Rapid City, South Dakota many years ago. These have been rebuilt by White's once, maybe twice actually. And in every one of their boots, you can find a date code, usually on the right boot. This one has 10 or 1008 stamped up in here in it. Might be able to see that, don't know. Anyways, if you own a pair of Whites, take a look in there. There's a date code stamped in there. These were made in 10 of 2008, so October of 2008. And then, of course, the next one is 10D, which is what my foot size is. When I had them rebuilt, I had them put an extra toe cap on here. And of course the firefighting sole, which you can see, which are completely gone. So I've been wearing these for about the last 6 months while I've been waiting on my other ones to get rebuilt. So like I said, these were rebuilt by White's. I really like White's boots. On the other hand, White's has gone off to being a corporate company and were bought out. But Nick's was a company that used to be part of White's. Nick actually worked for White's. He learned how to trade, went over and became Nick's. So the last pair of boots that I had were also White's. Custom ordered them in, I think, 17. So these ran me from about 2012 down to 17. I took some of my fire money that I got off one of the runs, and I bought a new pair of boots. And I've kept these as a backup spare ever since. But Nick's rebuilt my last ones the last time. White's and Nick's don't like to touch them if they don't have a tongue in them. And as you can see, this tongue is completely shot. And usually that's the indicator. If the tongue is gone in them, then they're not going to touch them. So that's why I've kind of kept these back as a spare set for a while. But Nick's has also kind of gone the way of the dodo. They're still there. Wrangler Star did a great profile on them. But last time I checked into it, Nick's is basically competing with White's now, and they've also been bought out by another company. So Nick's is kind of out for me at this point. I did some digging around. I found a company called Frank's. And when I called Frank was substantially cheaper than White's. White's wanted almost new price for a boot rebuild. So Frank won out, in my opinion, as far as the cost wise, because all those guys had gone up. I don't have the numbers in front of me at the moment, but round door to door, me sending my boots up to him, I forget what it cost me in FedEx getting it up there. A friend of mine has a commercial account with FedEx, so it really wasn't totally bad getting him to shoot them off. But shooting them back door to door, and I had a couple of things added to my initial order on these things. It was $405 for the rebuild. White's and Nick's and all them were starting in the mid fours. So even with the custom stuff that I had done in here, Frank came out cheaper. So let's see what we got here. Of course, there's Frank's logo. And besides my beat up uppers, they look pretty dadgum good. And no, I'm not sending these guys off to get them rebuilt. They'll probably turn into my wife's new flower pots. All right. I had them put only one lift in the heel because I'm starting to have some metatarsal problems out of my heels. And what they told me is that when they get a set of Whites, they try to replicate what Whites had here. So they're not going to go off and do something crazy with you. Let's see, left boot, left boot. Already I can see that White's has typically got a little bit more of an underslung heel. These guys, that could be, once it's wore in, would be a little bit more of an underslung heel. White's typically has more of a dish right here. And like I said, this was a total rebuild, so the only thing that they saved was the actual stovepipe section. This back strap has been replaced. All this has been replaced. And Frank's will put a new set of tongues in for you. They charge $35 per side to do tongues. So extra $35 a piece, that's an extra $70 right there. And they put toe caps on for me, which I like a double or triple layer of toe up here. And that is actually a pretty dang good toe cap, in my opinion, because when Whites did it, as you can see here, they charged me like an extra 90 bucks to do a toe cap, and it was just really another piece of leather slapped over top. This has actually got some meat to it. When I got these back the last time, I could squeeze them and they weren't really all that great. So, yep, good old fire sole on here. So first impression wise, good job, Frank. So these are also extra tall. I like a 12-inch because I broke my leg, and where I bind the laces up right here is usually right about where the brake sight is on the regular 10-inch style. So yeah, good job, guys. Thus far, this is looking really good. Franks will also, when I say they try to replicate, I like the fact that White's original smoke jumpers have 4 eyelets here and the rest is speed laces. I don't like a lot of lace or a lot of eyelets running up through here. I like having the speed laces as far down as possible, because I pop the speed laces, I rake one side to one and the others to the other side, and I can usually get my foot out of the boot. If you've got some of the other companies, Thorogoods and all them, they run a bunch of eyelets farther up, and that gets to be a bit of an issue for me in some cases. So we'll see here. Footbed wise, yep, total replacement on the footbed in there too. There's some extra stitching back in here. I don't know if you can see that, but there's actually quite a few. There's like 6 rows of stitching back in here. So it's real close to what Whites would have done originally. So overall, it looks like a set of Whites, except for the fact that I do have white on the stovepipe. 9 pounds is what the box was. So yeah, if you're looking at fire boots, these things are about 4 pounds, 4.5 pounds a pop. And there are some tough boots. Hey, it's cool. Even a set of laces and a set of tongues in here. Kilts or false tongues, they call them. I've got another set. I like a set that runs all the way up, and I've got them in the house in there that I'll lace them in. So overall, yeah, it can be torture breaking these things in, but they got a nice sheet here. It says something about water and alcohol. I'll read over that in a little bit. But wow, yeah, overall I'm impressed. Of course, I should be for as much as I spent. But yeah, these uppers have actually been rebuilt once already by Nix. So yeah, they were bought in 17. Nix did them about 3 years later. So this is the second time that these have been rebuilt. And they're good to go for another few more years. All right, guys, I'll get back to you in a couple days after we walk them around for a while. Okay, so it's been about 3 to 4 weeks on these Franks boots, and I can tell you, hey, quality product, real quality product. The soles are actually a little bit thicker than what I remember my Whites ever being, and they're actually wearing in real well, even with the minimal lift that they put in the back end here. My old stovepipes are starting to show some of their old scars again, but the actual boot itself and the quality of the workmanship for the new leather that Franks put in, excellent work. The sole being stiff like this, it's not breaking in quite as fast as some of my others would be. It still feels like an actual stiff boot on the bottom. Very protective. Went and got my extended false tongues out of my gear and went ahead and put those in. This is, if you've never used these, they're actually just a protective layer for the actual tongue section itself. So it helps take some of the wear and tear where your laces cross through here. And then I like the taller ones because it gives a little bit more of an added protection layer here where I cross my laces, and I wear a thin sock in the summertime and a thick sock in the wintertime. I can vary quite a bit in the width and the spread apart. So I kind of like them to have that extra layer in there too, especially when you take a log to the shin or something. It gives you another layer of help. The Whites that I had years ago, I want to say the heel flap or the actual little heel covering down in here, it would actually delaminate fairly quickly. The glue wouldn't usually set. These are still intact and they're still doing real well. One thing I have noticed about the Franks is that where this back seam actually comes down all the way into the heel section, and then of course it's covered with the heel cap and covered with the heel reinforcement up the back of the leg. the stitching for the original two halves coming together here, all the way down here at the base, it looks like they zigzagged that sucker back and forth quite a bit. If you're not used to that, and on the whites, typically they'll just kind of zigzag it down through here one run. These guys are actually coming over here into the margins on either side, so be prepared for that. Wear a thicker sock, or at least a sock that's got a heel cushion to it, at least for the first few weeks while you get used to it, and those stitches are actually setting down into the leather themselves. I wish I could send the camera down in there to show you exactly the extent, but yeah, it comes all the way over to here and all the way over to here. I can feel the stitches on the inside of that heel section. So my whites are that way, but they're a little bit different. And part of the reason why I sent these in originally, the stitches right through here were actually opening up to the point in the original backs, and they were pinching. I was starting to get a blister in the back of my heel. I'm like, what in the world's going on? Well, it wasn't the boot per se, as the stitch was starting to come loose in here. And now that Franks have rebuilt them, I'm saying, hey, good on you guys, quality product. So the deep lug, and you can still see a little bit of the red right there. So they are using the fire soles. So good on you guys. And like I said earlier in the video, they were substantially cheaper than the other guys were, and good quality service. They called me, talked to me about my boots before they actually wrote up the ticket on them, and they called me again before they shipped them out and let me know they were coming in the mail. So yeah, overall great product. So Frank, good on you, good job guys. I will be looking at, and I will be recommending Frank's boots for anybody who asks me about getting their fire boots rebuilt. So good job guys. Frank's boots, quality product. Catch you on the next round.